The colony dormitory was quiet that night. Rows of steel bunks lined the long narrow room, humming softly as the air system kept the temperature steady. Outside, the red desert winds of the alien world howled faintly, but inside there was silence. Tom, a young human engineer, lay in his lower bunk, drifting into deep sleep after a long day repairing the colony's water systems. He did not hear the faint creak above him at first. Myra, his roommate, shifted restlessly in the upper bunk. She was different from the others in the dorm. Quiet, reserved, and always covered in long clothing despite the heat, Myra kept to herself. Tom had always wondered about her, but he respected her privacy. All he knew was that she came from one of the far systems, a world humans rarely visited. That night, Myra had been trembling in her sleep. A faint light pulsed from her skin, hidden beneath her blankets. She had tried to hold it in, tried to control it, but her strength was failing. Her body shivered, and suddenly she lost balance. With a soft thud, she fell from the upper bunk straight onto Tom. Tom woke with a sharp gasp. For a moment, confusion clouded his mind as he felt the unexpected weight against him. His eyes opened, and he saw Myra lying across his chest, breathing fast. But it was not the fall that froze him, it was what he saw on her skin. Her arm had slipped from her sleeve, and a faint glow shimmered beneath the pale surface, like threads of light moving just under the skin. It was not a trick of the dim dorm lights. It was real, and it was alive. "Myra," Tom whispered, unsure if he was dreaming. She pushed herself up quickly, her face pale and filled with panic. You did not see that," she said, her voice low but urgent. She pulled her sleeve down, covering the glow as fast as she could. Tom sat up slowly. "I did," he said softly. His mind raced. He had worked with many aliens before, but he had never seen anything like this. Most colonists looked more or less like humans with slight differences, but this was something else. Myra stood, her body shaking. "Please. Say nothing. To anyone. Promise me." Her tone carried a desperate edge. Tom could see the fear in her eyes. This was not just a secret, it was something dangerous to her if others found out. "I promise," Tom said after a pause. He raised his hand slightly, showing he meant no harm. "But, what was that?" Myra stared at him, then turned away. She whispered, almost to herself, "It was a mistake. I lost control." Tom frowned. Lost control of what? She did not answer. Instead, she sat on the edge of the bunk, head bowed. The faint shimmer of light still flickered at her neck before she pulled her collar higher. Tom wanted to ask more, but he held back. He could sense the weight of her secret. The silence stretched. Outside, the desert wind rattled against the walls of the colony. Inside, only the sound of Myra's uneven breathing filled the space. At last, she spoke, her voice trembling. "I am not like the others here. If they know, they will fear me. They will send me away, or worse. You must not tell." Tom studied her carefully. He remembered how she always kept her gloves on, how she avoided bright places, how she never joined the others for meals. Now it all made sense. She had been hiding. "I won't tell," he said firmly. "But you don't have to be afraid of me." Her eyes lifted to meet his, uncertain. For a moment, he thought he saw relief in them, but it quickly vanished. She pulled her blanket tighter and whispered, "You should sleep. Forget this happened." But Tom knew he could not forget. The image of her glowing skin burned in his mind. He lay back in his bunk, staring at the ceiling, while Myra curled up above him. The dorm returned to silence, but the air between them was charged with a new tension. That night, Tom realized that his roommate was hiding something far bigger than he had ever imagined. What had seemed like an ordinary assignment in the colony was about to become something extraordinary. He closed his eyes, but sleep did not return easily. His thoughts kept circling back to the moment she fell, the shimmer of light, and the fear in her voice. Myra, too, did not sleep. She lay awake, clutching her blanket, her body still glowing faintly beneath the fabric. She had revealed her secret by accident, and now a human knew. She told herself to stay calm, but deep inside she wondered if she had just changed her life forever. The dormitory remained quiet until morning, but for both of them, nothing felt the same anymore. Morning in the colony dormitory began with the usual hum of machinery. The air filters rumbled to life, and the light panels in the ceiling flickered on. Other workers stirred in their bunks, yawning and rubbing their eyes as another long day on the desert world began. Tom was already awake. He had barely slept. His mind kept replaying the moment Myra had fallen, the faint glow on her skin, and the fear in her voice. He sat on his bunk, tying his boots, when Myra climbed down from the upper bunk. She avoided his eyes, moving quickly, as if hoping to slip away before he spoke. "Myra," Tom said quietly. She froze. For a moment, she seemed ready to run. Then she turned, her expression guarded. "You remember?" "Yes," Tom said. "And I think you should tell me what's really going on." Her lips pressed into a thin line. She looked around the dorm, checking if anyone was listening. Most of the other workers were already gone, heading to the canteen. Still, Myra lowered her voice. "Not here. Too many ears." Tom nodded. "Then later. After the shift." She hesitated but finally gave a small nod in return before slipping out the door. The day dragged on slowly. Tom worked in the colony's water facility, repairing cracked pipes and recalibrating the pressure valves. His hands moved automatically, but his mind was elsewhere. Every hiss of steam reminded him of Myra's faint shimmer, every spark of light from a tool reminded him of her glowing skin. When his shift ended, Tom made his way to the old greenhouse dome, a place few visited anymore. The colony had abandoned it after the soil proved useless for farming, leaving only cracked glass panels and dried earth. Myra was already there, waiting, her posture tense. "You followed directions," she said softly, glancing around. "Good." Tom crossed his arms. "I kept my promise. I didn't tell anyone. But now I need to understand." Myra's eyes searched his face, as if measuring whether she could truly trust him. At last, she pulled off her gloves. Her hands glowed faintly, lines of light moving under her skin like flowing rivers. She held them out for him to see. "This is me," she whispered. "I cannot hide it forever, but I try. My kind, we are different." Tom stared, speechless for a moment. The glow was beautiful, like living starlight. "You're not just another colonist, are you?" She shook her head. "I am from the Loomis system. My people are born with this energy. It is part of us. But out here, on mixed colonies, it brings fear. They think we drain power, or that we are unstable. Some of my kind were hunted in the past. That is why I hide." Tom frowned. "But you're not dangerous, are you?" "I am only dangerous if I lose control," Myra admitted. When I was young, I did not understand how to hold the light inside me. I caused an accident. Since then, I have trained. I came here to study, to learn to live quietly. But it is hard. The energy grows, and sometimes it leaks. Like last night. Her voice carried both shame and exhaustion. Tom's heart ached for her. That's why you wear long sleeves, why you keep to yourself. Yes, Myra said. If they knew, I would be sent away. Or worse. Humans are strong, but they fear what they do not understand. Tom knelt slightly, so his eyes were level with hers. I'm not afraid. I've seen what you can do, and I don't think you're dangerous. I think you're amazing. Myra blinked, startled by his words. For the first time, her guarded look softened. A faint smile tugged at her lips, though it vanished quickly. You are strange for a human, she said quietly. Maybe, Tom replied with a small grin. But I meant it. You don't have to hide from me. For a long moment, Myra just stood there, her glowing hands trembling slightly. Finally, she slipped the gloves back on. Thank you. But you must still keep my secret. If the colony guards suspect, they will not listen to kindness. Tom nodded firmly. Your secret is safe with me. The sun dipped low over the desert horizon, painting the glass dome with orange light. As they walked back toward the main colony, Tom noticed Myra glancing at him from time to time, as if surprised that he still walked beside her after what he had seen. Back in the dormitory, the other workers bustled about, laughing and trading stories of their shifts. Myra kept her usual distance, but when she passed Tom's bunk, she gave him the smallest nod, a silent thank you. That night, Tom lay awake again, but this time his thoughts were different. He felt no fear, only curiosity and a strange sense of responsibility. Myra carried a secret that could change everything, and now he was the only human who knew. He promised himself he would protect her, no matter what. Far above him, Myra lay in her bunk, staring at the ceiling. For the first time in a long while, she did not feel completely alone. The colony settled into its routine as the days passed, but for Tom, nothing felt the same. Before, his life had been simple: wake, work, eat, and sleep. Now, every moment seemed sharper. Every glance toward Myra reminded him of the secret she carried, and every silence between them seemed heavy with unspoken words. At first, Myra kept her distance. She still wore her gloves, her long sleeves, and her quiet expression. Yet Tom noticed small changes. When the other workers gathered for meals, she no longer avoided sitting near him. When the dorm grew quiet, she sometimes asked about his day. It was not much, but it was a beginning. One evening, Tom returned from repairing a broken pump line near the colony wall. His hands were covered in grease, and he was tired, but when he stepped into the dorm, he saw Myra sitting on her bunk, sketching something on a piece of old scrap paper. Her gloves were off, and her glowing hands traced patterns in the air above the page. Tom froze in the doorway. The lines of light moved like ribbons, weaving shapes he could not quite understand. The sight was mesmerizing. Myra noticed him and quickly dropped her hands, pulling on her gloves. You were not supposed to see that, she said sharply. Tom smiled gently. You said the same thing the night you fell. But I'm glad I did. It was beautiful. Her cheeks colored faintly, though the glow of her skin made it hard to tell. It is practice, she said quietly. I must keep control. If I stop, the light grows restless. Restless. Tom tilted his head. Yes, Myra said. She lifted one hand slowly, letting the glove slide halfway off. The faint glow returned, flickering softly like a living flame. It wants to move. To escape. If I do not guide it, it can cause harm. Tom stepped closer, lowering his voice so no one else could hear. Then guide it with me here. I won't tell anyone. Her eyes searched his face for any sign of mockery. Finding none, she nodded slowly. She removed her glove fully and let the light grow brighter. The patterns swirled across her palm, like streams of silver and gold. Tom reached out but stopped short of touching. Can I? He asked. Myra hesitated, then turned her hand upward. Tom placed his rough human hand lightly against hers. To his surprise, it did not burn or sting. Instead, it felt warm, steady, like standing near a campfire on a cold night. Myra's eyes widened. You do not fear it, she whispered. Why would I? Tom said with a small smile. It feels alive. Like you. For the first time since they had met, Myra laughed. It was a soft sound, fragile, but real. She pulled her glove back on quickly, but the moment lingered in the air between them. The next day, Tom's curiosity grew stronger. When he finished his shift, he noticed Myra slipping quietly out of the dorm. She carried nothing with her, but her steps were quick and purposeful. Tom followed at a distance. She made her way through the colony's narrow passages, past the storage units, and toward the far edge where the lights grew dim. Finally, she entered a small maintenance hatch that led outside the colony dome. Tom's heart raced. Was she leaving? Was she in danger? He crawled through the hatch after her and emerged into the open desert night. The twin moons hung above, casting pale light across the sand. Ahead, Myra stood with her arms raised, her whole body faintly glowing. The shimmer flowed outward, brighter now, as if the moons themselves answered her. She drew energy from the colony's solar collectors, invisible strands of power feeding into her body. Her skin glowed brighter and brighter until she looked almost made of light. Tom watched, stunned. She was not weak. She was powerful. But after a while, her shoulders sagged. She stumbled slightly, the glow flickering as if it wanted to break free. Tom rushed forward, catching her before she fell. Myra, he said firmly, holding her steady. You can't do this alone. Her eyes opened slowly, faint with exhaustion. You should not have followed me. Maybe not, Tom said, but I'm glad I did. I saw what you were doing. You're training, aren't you? You're trying to control it? She nodded weakly. If I do not, the energy inside me grows until it bursts. That is why I come here. I feed from the collectors and release what I can. But it is dangerous. If the guards knew, they would blame me for every power fault in the colony. Tom tightened his grip, steadying her. Then I'll help you. I know the systems. I can make sure no one notices when you draw from the collectors. Myra looked at him in disbelief. Why would you risk that for me? Because you shouldn't have to carry this alone, Tom said simply. You're my friend. And friends look out for each other. For a long moment, Myra said nothing. Then, slowly, she nodded. Her voice was soft, almost like a vow. Then we stand together. That night, as they returned to the dormitory, Tom felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had never expected to find such a bond on this dusty colony world. Myra was no longer just a mysterious roommate. She was someone who trusted him with her truth, and he had chosen to stand beside her. Above them, the desert moons shone brightly, and though the colony still hummed with its usual noise, Tom knew his life had taken a turn that could never be undone. The colony was built to withstand storms, sand, and even the long nights of the desert, but it was not built to withstand fear. And fear had begun to creep through its narrow halls. At first, it was only whispers. Workers returning from their shifts muttered about strange flickers in the power lines. Lights in the storage wing dimmed for seconds at a time. The pumps in the water system shuddered without reason. Some claimed to have seen flashes of light outside the dome at night. By the third day, the whispers had grown into concern. The guards patrolled more often. The colony chief ordered inspections of every energy system. Rumors spread like wildfire: someone was stealing power, or worse, some hidden creature was feeding from the grid. Tom knew the truth, and every rumor made his stomach tighten. Myra continued her secret trips at night, careful and quiet, but he knew it was only a matter of time before someone noticed. That evening, the dormitory buzzed with talk. A tall miner at the far bunk slammed his fist against the metal frame. "It's sabotage, I tell you. Someone's draining the systems. If we don't catch them, the whole colony could fail." Others nodded. "Maybe it's one of the outsiders," another muttered. "Some of those aliens bring trouble." Tom's hands curled into fists. He wanted to shout that they were wrong, that not every alien was a threat, but he kept silent. Speaking now would only draw attention to Myra. Across the room, Myra sat on her bunk, her face calm but her hands hidden deep in her sleeves. Tom could see the tension in her posture. She had heard every word. When the others finally left for the canteen, Tom approached her. "They're getting suspicious," he whispered. Her eyes flicked up to meet his. "I know. You can't keep doing this. They'll find out." She shook her head slowly. "I must. The energy grows inside me. If I do not release it, I will lose control." Tom's chest tightened. He had seen how weak she became after using her power. He had also seen her glow brighter than the moons. "Then let me help you," he said. "We need a safer way." Myra hesitated. For the first time, fear slipped through her calm mask. "If they find me, Tom, it will not end with questions. They will lock me away. Or worse. Humans are strong, but they fear what they do not know." "Not all of us," Tom said firmly. "I'll find a way to hide your energy draws. I know the systems better than most." Her lips parted as if to argue, but she stopped herself. Slowly, she nodded. "Then we must be careful. More careful than before." The next night, Tom followed Myra again, this time prepared. He carried a small toolkit and a portable monitor, devices he used daily in his engineering work. While Myra stood beneath the solar collectors, her glow spilling faintly into the sand, Tom crouched near a panel and adjusted the readings. The drain on the grid vanished from the logs, hidden beneath normal fluctuations. When Myra finished, she stumbled, weak as always. Tom caught her arm and steadied her. "There. No record. No one will know." Her eyes softened with gratitude. "You risk much for me." Tom smiled faintly. "I told you. Friends look out for each other." But as he guided her back toward the colony, he noticed movement in the shadows. A guard patrolling near the dome had paused, staring into the desert night. Tom's heart pounded. Did the guard see them? The guard shook his head and moved on, but the moment left Tom shaken. The risk was growing. By the end of the week, the colony chief called a meeting in the central square. The entire colony gathered under the harsh lights as the chief stood on the platform. "Our systems are being tampered with," the chief declared. "Power drains, unexplained failures, dangerous fluctuations. This is no accident. Someone here is responsible." The crowd murmured angrily. Some shouted for tighter searches, others demanded punishment for whoever was guilty. The chief raised a hand for silence. "From tonight, patrols will double. Every unit will be inspected. If the thief or saboteur is among us, they will be found." Tom glanced at Myra in the crowd. Her face was pale, her eyes fixed on the ground. He could almost feel her fear. When the crowd broke apart, Tom pulled her aside. "It's worse than I thought. They're hunting for someone. If they catch even a glimpse of your glow, I know," Myra said quietly. "But I cannot stop what I am." Her voice was steady, but Tom heard the tremor beneath it. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll find a way to protect you. No matter what." She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes filled with something he had not seen before: hope. That night, as the patrols marched through the colony halls and the searchlights swept across the desert, Tom lay awake in his bunk. Above him, Myra shifted restlessly, the faintest shimmer escaping through her blanket. The colony was closing in, suspicion growing sharper every hour. Tom knew the secret could not remain hidden forever. The question was not if it would be revealed, but when and what would happen after. And still, he knew one thing with certainty. When that moment came, he would stand beside her. The colony was restless. Patrols searched every corridor, checking panels and questioning workers. Rumors grew sharper each day. Some said it was smugglers draining power. Others swore an unknown alien had slipped inside the walls. Fear clung to the colony like dust, and it was only getting heavier. Tom felt it pressing on him every time he left his bunk. He heard the miners whispering in the canteen, saw the guards walking with their hands on their weapons, and noticed how quickly people glanced at outsiders with suspicion. He knew it was only a matter of time before Myra's secret was forced into the open. That evening, while he worked in the water system chamber, the alarm suddenly blared. A harsh red light filled the room as a mechanical voice echoed through the halls. "Power surge detected. Sector 3 offline. All personnel evacuate immediately." Tom's chest tightened. Sector 3 was near the dorms. He dropped his tools and ran. When he reached the dormitory, chaos had already begun. Lights flickered wildly, sparks flew from a wall panel, and frightened workers rushed out into the corridor. Myra stood frozen near her bunk, her hands pressed against her chest. The glow beneath her skin shone through her sleeves brighter than ever before. She whispered to herself, "No, no, not here." A guard spotted her. His eyes widened as he saw the light. "You! Stop!" he shouted. Myra stumbled back, panic in her face. The glow burst free, flooding the dorm with a wave of silver and gold. Workers gasped and screamed, pressing against the walls to escape. Tom pushed forward. "Wait. She's not the cause, she's trying to control it," he yelled. But his words were drowned out by the shouts and alarms. The guards raised their weapons. Myra's light spread further, wrapping around the sparking panel. The machine shuddered, then steadied as her glow flowed into it. The flickering lights calmed, and the dangerous surge ended. Silence followed. The workers stared, wide-eyed, at Myra standing in the center of the dorm. Her skin glowed like crystal, her eyes shining with silver light. She looked almost otherworldly, and fear rippled through the crowd. One of the guards stepped forward. "She is the thief. She is the danger. Take her." Myra gasped and took a step back, but Tom moved in front of her. His arms spread wide, his voice fierce. "No. She just saved all of you. That surge could have destroyed half the colony. You saw it. She stopped it." The guard scowled. "She caused it? Look at her. No normal being glows like that." "She didn't cause it," Tom said firmly. "She's been hiding because she knew you'd all react like this. But what you saw was not sabotage. It was survival, and it just saved every one of us." The crowd murmured uncertainly. Some still looked afraid, others confused. A few lowered their heads, ashamed. Myra stood trembling behind Tom, her light fading slowly as she pulled her power back inside. "I did not mean for this to happen," she whispered. "I never wished to harm anyone." Her voice cracked, and the honesty in it cut through the noise. A young miner stepped forward, glancing at the repaired panel. She fixed it? I saw it. The lights were dying, and she stopped it?" Another worker nodded. "The surge is gone. If it weren't for her, we might be standing in the dark right now." The guard still looked unconvinced, but the murmurs of agreement spread through the crowd. People were no longer sure if Myra was a threat or a savior. The chief of the colony arrived then, drawn by the alarms. His eyes narrowed as he took in the scene, the scorched panel, the trembling workers, the faint glow still clinging to Myra's skin. "Explain," he ordered. Tom spoke before anyone else could. "She has an energy inside her. She didn't choose it, but she controls it. Tonight, it leaked because of the surge. And she stopped it before it spread further. Without her, we would be in disaster right now." The chief studied Myra in silence, his face unreadable. "If this is true, then she carries both danger and value. The colony must decide." Fear returned to Myra's eyes. She lowered her head, prepared for the worst. But Tom stood firm beside her. "There is nothing to decide. You saw her save the system. You need her, whether you admit it or not. Don't make the mistake of treating her as an enemy when she is your ally." The chief's gaze lingered on Tom, then shifted to Myra. At last, he gave a short nod. "She will not be harmed. But from this day, she is watched. Her power must serve the colony, not threaten it." The crowd slowly dispersed, muttering to each other. The guards lowered their weapons, though uneasily. Myra's glow dimmed fully at last, leaving her pale and weak. As the chief left, Tom turned to her. "You see? They know the truth now. It's out. But you're still here." Myra sank to the edge of her bunk, her hands trembling. "I never wanted this," she whispered. "Now they will always see me as different." Tom crouched beside her. "Maybe different is what they need. And I'll be right here with you." For the first time since her secret had been revealed, Myra lifted her eyes. The fear was still there, but behind it was something else: trust. The days after Myra's secret was revealed were uneasy ones. The colony still functioned, but a heavy tension hung over its people. Wherever Myra walked, eyes followed her. Some stared in awe, others in fear. Whispers trailed her steps. Children peered from behind their parents, curious about the glowing woman who had saved them. The chief kept his word. Myra was not harmed, but guards shadowed her movements. They called it precaution, but Tom knew it was mistrust. Myra bore it quietly, though Tom saw the pain in her face each night when she returned to the dorm. "I told you this would happen," she said one evening, sitting on the edge of her bunk. "They see me as a tool, not a person." Tom shook his head. "You're more than that. They'll see it. I'll make sure they do." She gave a faint smile, but it did not last long. "You believe too strongly in people, Tom." The turning point came 3 nights later. Tom was in the maintenance wing when the alarms blared again. But this time, the sound was sharper, angrier. The lights flickered red, and the loudspeaker voice shouted words that chilled every worker to the bone. "Reactor instability detected. Core overload imminent. All personnel evacuate." Tom's blood ran cold. The reactor was the heart of the colony. If it failed, everything, the life support, the shields, the oxygen generators, would vanish. The desert outside would swallow them in minutes. Workers ran in panic. Guards shouted orders. But Tom did not run. He sprinted toward the reactor chamber. If anyone knew the systems well enough to help, it was him. When he reached the chamber doors, 2 guards were struggling to keep them sealed. "It's too unstable," one shouted. "We can't go in." Tom pushed past them. "We have to. If we leave it, the whole colony dies." The guard tried to stop him, but another voice rang out. "He's right." Myra stood there, her eyes glowing faintly. Her presence made the guard stiffen, but Tom felt relief flood his chest. She had come. Without waiting for permission, Myra stepped forward and placed her hand on the door panel. The metal hummed under her touch, and the locks released with a heavy click. The doors opened, revealing the reactor chamber within. It was chaos inside. Sparks rained from broken conduits. The central core pulsed violently, its usual steady glow flickering like a dying star. Energy surged through the walls, shaking the entire structure. Myra staggered at the sight. "It is worse than I thought." Tom grabbed her hand. "Can you stabilize it?" "Yes," she whispered. "But not alone. If I try to take all of this into myself, it will drain me completely." "Then you won't do it alone," Tom said firmly. She looked at him in shock. "You are human. You cannot carry this light." "Maybe not," Tom admitted. "But I can guide the systems. If you feed your energy into the stabilizers, I can redirect it through the circuits. Together, we can hold it." Myra's glow brightened, her fear clashing with hope. "You would risk your life." Tom met her eyes. "I already decided." "You're not alone anymore." They moved quickly. Tom ran to the control console, his fingers flying across the keys as he rerouted damaged lines. Sparks burned his hands, but he ignored the pain. Myra stepped to the core, pulling off her gloves. Light burst from her skin, brighter than ever before. The room filled with her glow as she raised both arms, channeling her energy into the reactor. The wild pulses steadied slightly, but the strain showed on her face. Sweat dripped from her brow as she forced the light to obey. "Now, Tom," she shouted. Tom hit the controls, redirecting the flow into the backup circuits. The system groaned but held. He watched the numbers climb dangerously high, then fall slowly back toward safe levels. Myra screamed softly as the last surge of power rushed through her. Tom left the console and ran to her side, catching her as her knees buckled. The reactor's glow steadied. The violent shaking stopped. For the first time in minutes, the chamber fell silent except for the hum of stable energy. They had done it. Together. Outside the chamber, the colonists waited in terrified silence. When the doors opened and Tom carried Myra out in his arms, the crowd gasped. Her body was weak, her glow dim, but she was alive. Tom's clothes were scorched, his hands blackened with burns, but his eyes burned with fierce determination. "She saved you," Tom shouted at the stunned crowd. "You saw it with your own eyes. Without her, we'd all be gone right now." The guards lowered their weapons. The workers bowed their heads. No one could deny the truth anymore. Myra was not the cause of their fear, she was the reason they still breathed. Myra stirred weakly in Tom's arms. "Did we stop it?" she whispered. Tom smiled, tears stinging his eyes. "Yes. We stopped it. Together." Her lips curved in the faintest smile before exhaustion claimed her. That night, the colony was quiet. The people moved with hushed voices, aware that disaster had been avoided by the very one they had feared. Tom sat beside Myra's bunk in the infirmary, refusing to leave her side. He held her hand gently, the faint light beneath her skin glowing against his palm. He thought of the promise he had made to stand with her, no matter what. Tonight, he had kept it. And tomorrow, when she woke, he would keep it again. The colony was quiet after the storm of events. Lights flickered back to normal, power was restored, and people slowly came out of their homes, whispering about what had just happened. The great reactor, which had threatened to tear the colony apart, now hummed softly, stable and calm. No one could believe it had been saved, not by the trained engineers or soldiers, but by a young human engineer and his alien roommate. Tom walked through the dusty corridors of the colony station, his steps heavy but steady. His body still ached from the heat and pressure he had endured inside the reactor chamber, but his mind was sharp. He knew Myra had given more of herself than anyone had ever asked. Without her, everything would have been lost. He found her in the medical wing, sitting on a low bed. Her skin glowed faintly, but not as bright as before. The light that had once poured from her like a river was now gentle, soft, and quiet, like a candle flame in the dark. She looked tired but calm. When she saw Tom enter, her lips curved into a small smile. "You are still standing," she whispered. "And you are still glowing," Tom replied with a weak grin as he sat beside her bed. "I was worried you would burn yourself out." Myra shook her head slowly. "I thought I would. But your plan worked. You helped me balance it. You kept me steady when I thought I could not hold on." Tom felt a weight lift from his chest. In the chaos of the reactor, when alarms had screamed and heat pressed in, he had only focused on her voice, her trust in him. He had pushed past fear because she had believed in him. And now here they were, alive, sitting side by side. Outside the medical wing, crowds had begun to gather. People wanted answers. Some were afraid, others were grateful, and many were simply curious. The colony had never seen someone like Myra, glowing with living light, bending energy with her own body. For years, she had hidden, fearful of being treated as a danger. Now the entire colony knew. The governor of the colony, a stern woman with silver hair, entered the room with 2 guards. Tom instinctively stood, ready to defend Myra if needed. But the governor raised her hand. "No one will harm her," the governor said firmly. Her eyes softened as she looked at Myra. "What you did today saved every life on this colony. I do not know what your people would call you, but to us, you are a hero." Myra lowered her gaze, her hands folding in her lap. I never wanted to be seen. I only wanted a place where I could live quietly. And yet, Tom said gently, you showed them more courage than anyone else could. The governor nodded. It is true. There will be questions, and some will fear you. But many more will respect you. You have earned your place here. When the governor left, Tom sat again beside Myra. He could see the conflict in her eyes. For so long, she had lived in shadows, pretending to be ordinary. Now the light inside her could no longer be hidden. What happens now? She asked softly. Tom thought for a moment. Now, you stop hiding. If they see who you really are, if they see you as I do, they will understand. Not all at once, maybe not everyone, but enough of them will. And you will not face it alone. Her eyes lifted, glowing faintly. You would stay? Even after all this? Tom chuckled. Myra, you fell on me while I was asleep, revealed your secret by accident, dragged me into power theft mysteries, and nearly burned me alive in a reactor. And I am still here. I think I am not going anywhere. For the first time since Tom had met her, Myra laughed openly. The sound was light and warm, carrying no fear, no hiding. Days later, when the colony held a gathering to honor those who had saved them, Myra stood beside Tom. People looked at her with wide eyes, some with awe, some with doubt, but no one raised a hand against her. Tom gave a short speech, speaking plainly about courage, about trust, and about how Myra had risked everything for them. His words were not polished, but they were true, and they carried across the crowd like a steady flame. When the ceremony ended, Myra stood tall, her glow steady and calm. She no longer pulled her cloak tight or kept her eyes down. She walked among the people with Tom at her side, no longer hiding from who she was. Later that night, in their dorm room, Tom stretched out on his lower bunk. Myra sat above him, her faint glow casting soft light on the ceiling. For a long moment, they sat in silence, the hum of the colony around them. Finally, Tom spoke. Do you ever think about how it started? You falling on me in the middle of the night. Myra smiled softly. A clumsy accident. But perhaps it was the beginning we both needed. Tom closed his eyes, letting the warmth of her light surround him. Yeah. A strange beginning. But maybe the best kind. And in that quiet room, the human and the alien, once strangers, now stood together at the start of a new life, one built on trust, courage, and the bond they had forged when her secret was revealed.